Well, no matter how you found us, thank you all for joining us and thank you all for coming in. It's really great to see you all here. And we're going to get ready to rock and roll for a great, great program. And we have our first panel coming up in just a moment.
But in the meantime, we would like to kick off this panel in action and its application across industries. So first thing in the morning, it's a great conversation, especially we talk about how AI is an overarching way is applied and utilized in various industries. And this is how we're going to start and cascade down deeper into other topics for the day. So before we start, I would like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves first. So maybe Niraj Patel, you want to go first? Introduce yourself for a moment.
Definitely. Hey, thanks for having, and I'm so excited to speak about this amazing topic. Had a good fortune to be in the technology and financial services space for most of my career, throughout different portions in corporate life, as well as for amazing providers like IBM and Watson into the market. Been playing, not just playing, but implementing AI solutions in the financial service industries for over 3 decades now. So looking forward to our discussion.
Excellent. Thank you, Niraj. How about you, Dixie? Dixie, can you please introduce yourself? I know you spoke earlier, but...
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Dixiana Berrios. I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Metropolitan Commercial Bank. I have been in the financial services industry for, dare I say, over close to 30 years. AI is something that's still on the forefront for the financial services industries. We've been doing a lot of exploration, some mild implementation in the last few years. So I'm getting ready to enjoy the conversation today with everyone. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dixie. Beverly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, and thank you, Shia, for giving me this opportunity. It's amazing. I've never really spoke on the tech part of things with people, but I am involved with it. Dating back, I'm going to share a little bit that when I was born, TV wasn't invented. So tech is something that is here with us to stay, and it's getting bigger and better and more complicated, but not necessarily complicated. So hopefully we can clear up a lot of that in today's conversation. But it's not something to be afraid of. I am a holistic practitioner by trade for about 45 years now, and taking that into this tech world, because butts in the seats, as we call it, as a practitioner and course creator and presenter in retreats and things like that, bringing this digital world to life and in the immersive spaces is just been a godsend in how it can really impact the world today and the global reach that it gives. So I'm really excited to hear what all these wonderful experts have to say in their lane, which is what this show is all about. And again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Beverly. As I always say, I like the panels which are more interactive, and there is a nice flow of conversation. So being a moderator, I don't need to necessarily ask specific questions, but I do want to kind of give you a theme. What we are following is really starting this first panel with a conversation that is more overarching around the AI application across industries. So people start to recognize the use of AI, the advancements of AI in different industries, and then our later panels are getting more deeper into ethics, social, security, legalities, and things like that. So my question, if you can, maybe starting with Niraj, if you could at least give us an idea of where do you see the landscape of AI and how the applications are in the space that you're working in. What are the advancements happening in the space?
Yeah, so it's amazing, and I know a lot of people on the webinar have a deep knowledge, but everything came to the forefront because of ChatGPT, OpenAI 18-20 months ago, and it shifted focus away from the traditional deep learning, machine learning, NLP states of AI from the past, but it brought it to forefront. And it made everybody really react to, how do I take this new innovation and how do I apply it in my day-to-day practices, and how will it help my employees, my customers, have a better experience? Which was really amazing, because if you think about it, almost 2 years into this, companies are all over the place where they apply it. Where you will see where we're applying it in financial services is really going after the heart of the decision process. So whenever you have a loan, whenever you have a decision, it's called the underwriter. Underwriter performs a lot of functions. They read a lot of pages, they look at a lot of images, they analyze a lot of data to come up with how much money to provide you, and then kind of get that decision going. And we've really stepped back and said, hey, how do I make that core application work for that underwriter? How do I make Gen AI work with that underwriter? How do we make them unwind their unproductive tasks? So an example, when you get into large real estate loans, let's say a commercial real estate loan on a massive apartment building, $100 million loan, all of a sudden you have many reports that come into that underwriter. So there's up to 7 third parties that actually go out to the property to analyze it with different lenses. A property inspector goes out, an engineering company goes out, an appraisal company goes out. All these 1,000+ page reports come in back to the underwriter. And a simple example is going to be, hey, today I have to open up all these documents, even if I have to look for consistency, number of parking spaces. While one person may have interpreted 100 spaces, another person interpreted 102 spaces. It's like, wait a minute, there could be only one of those ideas. How many spaces is it? So the underwriter's got to look for these discrepancies over these 7+ reports, thousands of pages. So we've implemented Gen AI to go through all those processes, read all those documents, look for those discrepancies, highlight those in an Excel spreadsheet, just like an underwriter would put together, generate the email to actually say, hey, which third party do you want to ask to revisit that? And when the new document comes in, it redoes the whole thing for them. So we took a lot of those mundane processes that are mind-numbing. Hey, without coffee, it would be very difficult to go through all those pages. How do we make that easy for them? How do we take those types of work and make it more valuable for them? So that's one example of how we're applying it in the financial services space. But I encourage everybody to think about it that way. What are those types of tasks that really add value? And then how do we make that human more powerful through that decision process?
Excellent. Thank you, Niraj. I know the low-hanging fruits are the ones many companies are trying to get onto. And I'm so happy to see Jim join the conversation. I think one thing I missed, probably you can set the context, Jim, and take the conversation on. So I think we need to really clarify what is AI, what is Gen AI, because there are a lot of questions people get confused about. AI existed for a long time, right? So it would be helpful if we can start the conversation with that and then go to the next 2 panelists to talk about. I think the question I asked earlier was about to share any applications or their experience within their landscape, what's happening with AI.
So as I said, AI has been around for a long time, right? So there were hype cycles in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 2000s, and now in the 2020s, right? However, the difference these days is because of ChatGPT and the fast penetration, right? This is the fastest penetrating technology ever in perhaps world history, right? It went from 0 in November of 2022, right, to 2 billion people now. That's 1/4 of the planet, probably 1/3 of the people who have computers, right? So that's incredible penetration, right? So the hype, we can't say it's hype anymore because of that penetration. I mean, there is some hype around how AI will change our lives and how it will take over. Yes, there is hype regarding that. But as far as the evolution of this technology, because of the Chat GPT and the generative AI part of AI and the fast penetration to 2 billion people, 300 to 400 billion people, 300 million people daily or weekly use it, right? So that type of penetration is incredible. And it's really important to see that that is the reason why it's so top of mind and so important to our personal and business use, right? And we're talking about business today. Clearly, generative AI is essentially, the easiest way to understand it is it's the most fantastically efficient autocomplete, right? It predicts the next word, the next this, the next that. And so that evolution is now, not only does it sort of tell us and summarizes everything on the internet, it's straight to the internet, but the evolution of that is that it can not only summarize documents, not only do quick translation, not only help us understand or analyze things, but it also can make videos, as we've seen with some of the technology, the Sora technology, right? We can just type something in now, and it will actually make a video just from text prompt or a text question. And as far as that's obviously got implications, good and bad. We can talk about those later. The bad thing is obviously you can take someone's picture or image and make it talk, essentially. So that technology is here. If we had more time, I would show you some videos or examples of that. But the possibilities are becoming more fluent and more easy to use. So again, just to give some context, when we first talked about ChatGPT or generative AI, we talked about prompting. We need to learn prompting, or there are names for prompt engineers, right? And so the technology is getting so good, so fast, that we might not even have to learn how to prompt. We will have to learn how to converse and get the best out of the models, yes, but it's getting so good that natural language will allow us to get the appropriate or best answers we need, whatever it is, whether, again, it's for business or personal use. So with that sort of briefing about AI, again, the difference between AI and the subset of generative AI, right, which is so popular and so timely these days. We can talk to, we just got some good insights from Niraj. But let's move over to Dixiana. Dixie, tell us how you're using generative AI at your employer, your bank.
So generative AI is still very limited in our environment. Obviously, because a financial institution is so regulated, there are a lot of data security concerns that we have to take into consideration in implementing any solution set like this. So in the limited context, what we've started using it for is presentation and content development, anti-money laundering tools on the back end to a limited extent, fraud detection. Obviously, it's been present in biometrics for a long time, and then also some agent assist capabilities in our contact center. So those are some of the use cases that we've started evaluating.
Great. And so can you just talk a bit more about, we always hear about customer service, right? One of the headline examples that has taken the world by storm was one by Klarna. Klarna is a fintech company out of Europe. And they said that with agents, they were able to let go or displace 700 jobs using a customer-facing chatbot. And I'm just curious how that has, now clearly they're in a specific part of the industry, but do you reference that at all, or is that sort of one of the bigger promises in the, let's just say, the banking industry?
Probably for some smaller institutions. We at Metropolitan were more of a relationship-based bank, so we would never replace our agents with, chat agents. In the long run, what we see the future of it is just an agent assist capability. Adding that content, our procedural content to that agent to help the customer when they have some basic questions right before they get to the point where they're going to be speaking to an agent. And then also on the back end, helping the agent when they have customer contact to answer the customer's questions much more quickly, much more effectively to get to that first time resolution.
Great. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Beverly, go ahead.
Oh gosh, I got two people on the side of me here in the squares that are talking all the financial stuff, and I am like at the opposite end of the spectrum, where AI comes into impact for me as a course creator, an author, speaker, podcaster, all that arena is completely different, yet it still merges together. When you look at all the AI apps out there and how to use them, and Jim, you actually made a comment on prompting, and that is so critical because to get the answers back and what you want, it's how you prompt. And I use it a little bit differently because I am a writer and stuff. If you just take your intellectual property out of here and put it down on paper, just type it up. You don't need to put it in any kind of chronological order or anything, just put it up there. So when I take chat, what I do is I take my content, my own personal intellectual property, I put it into chat and I ask for a professional language. You can have it talk with, a different accent or however you want it to, spit out the words for, but only to use the content that I give it and don't bring anything in from the outside. So now it takes all the editing, takes, the words out. I mean, it's insane how fast it is and how professional it looks and everything in just a matter of a few minutes. And to be able to do that and have a professional and then go through it and make sure that it's how you talk and that something didn't get distorted and two words put together that don't make sense. It's always critical that you follow up on that and really tune it in, and it takes so much time out of it. And at that same point, to take that same content, it's like, wow, well, now I need email messages, right? So I ask it to take the same content and generate 10 emails for me. Bing, 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 done. Oh, great. Now I need social media posts. Bing, bing, bing. And then, so whatever you want, it'll take the content that it's given you and do just a running forefront on it. And then you ask for jaw-stopping headliners. And it'll give them to you. It's just amazing what can happen, and it's all around the prompting. So when you work on that, it makes a huge difference. And then using some of the other apps, and we'll probably get into that as well, when you start creating and generating photography, pictures, whether they're psychedelic type of pictures or actually original type of pictures, being able to bring your face into it or just having an AI generated photo of someone. There's so many different ways, but again, to get what you want in that graphic, you still need to be able to know how to use the prompt. So the education on prompting is critical, and it's hit and miss. If there's a word in there that's not giving you what you want, change the word. And sometimes it's just one word. And you tell it what you don't want in there as well as what you want in there, because it doesn't distinguish the difference, right? And then to be able to get the voiceover. I mean, that is absolutely amazing when you can actually generate your own voice and create a voiceover in your voice tone, or you can just substitute, any kind of accent. There's apps out there now that you can actually begin to speak in another language. So when we speak in our language of choice, our mouths move differently. Well, when you speak in another language that's not your main language, the way the voice lips are going and everything is different, and it will actually sync it so that it does sound like you're actually speaking that language because your mouth movement is the same. It's amazing of the technology that can happen. And it's the time element. Time is something we never get back. And that's what's really critical. And moving into the virtual reality space, which is another lane that I've gone into for the last 6 years, because people aren't putting what we call butts in the seats anymore, and it's all online courses. And now with what's going on with online courses, the affiliations coming into it, you're getting in building communities around it, which is what I'm all about. And to be able to do that in an immersive space where those worlds become walk-in websites for trade shows, for summits, for speaking engagements, for anything that you want to run evergreen, the networking that can happen instead of being in these little squares, which thank goodness we had them to get to this point, but being able to work into an immersive world is like a duplication of everything you do in brick and mortar. On the other side of that, it's time saving, it's cost effective, and the interaction that can happen is totally amazing. And it also gives people an opportunity to be on leveling playground when they're in there. So someone who may not be able to get to an event because of some physical thing going on is able to immerse themselves into a virtual reality space. Avatars can do everything. You know, we're taking it in the direction of like with nursing homes and care centers like that, where seniors now can get into these immersive worlds with their grandchildren and interact and run all over and visit things. I mean, everything that's in the brick and mortar is actually in the virtual reality. So you can climb a mountain together. You can walk down the beach together. All of these things can happen now that didn't happen before. So when you think about the freedom that it's giving to those that are maybe incapacitated in one way or another, it opens up to another whole adventure and brings the world closer together. So that's what I'm all about, is merging these two worlds together as something enjoyable and effective for humanity.
Thank you for that. That was really wonderful, and I think it's going to prompt a lot of questions, because the world of video and creativity and imagery is so exciting. So with that, I'll ask everyone to start getting some questions and start submitting them. We're going to try to get to those really early. But before I do that, let's highlight from each of you a favorite use case that you really like to use, that you just learned, right? Because I think if we mention some of these use cases, people can relate to those and ask questions on them. So I'll say one of my favorite use cases is writing romantic things, because I can't write romantic things for the life of me. So that's really helpful. But more recently, and business-wise, I've been using Google Notebook LM, and that has been wonderful, because it is extraordinarily powerful technology, which allows you to take either a large document or what I like to use it for is when I'm hosting a dinner or a lecture, and I just put the whole transcript or the whole video through this model, and what it spits out is a whole briefing. It's like 5 things: briefing, FAQ, questions and answers, summary. I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2 other things, but it also creates a podcast. And the beauty of it, and the podcast is really fun, and it's just getting better all the time. And the beautiful thing for me, again, these are sort of confidential, private dinners, is it anonymizes by default mostly the conversation. So you can get the benefit of the insights of a private conversation, or really stimulating conversation, sort of downloaded in different formats. So you can scan it with your eyes, or you can listen to it while you drive, and it's really just really exciting. And I just can't wait to see how that improves, because right now you have the same podcasters, the same voices, chit-chatting, and I know in the future there's going to be different voices that you can use. In fact, you could probably make it your own voice or your friend's voice in the future. So that technology is exciting. So why don't we go down the panel here and see what you folks have in mind. And again, I want to ask everyone to start submitting questions because I really want to try and get to those because we're not going to have nearly enough time to get to them, but we're going to try to do lightning rounds of answers to your questions so that we can share as many insights as possible during this session. So Niraj, go ahead.
Yeah, James, I for the group, I want to highlight one thing that you started with and how it applies to not only enterprise or business productivity, but individual productivity, right? So you start off with the Gartner hype cycle, and everything is about the hype cycle that we know technology goes through. And right now, most people might say, are we at the peak of inflated expectations of AI, right? So are we at this peak and we have massive expectations of this technology? But when you ground through the hype cycle, everything winds up at that plateau of productivity. And James, you touched on it. Our fellow panelists touched on that productivity. And now you think about it from a personal productivity or a corporate productivity. And how do I make things more better and easier to do? So I love your Notebook LM. I use Notebook LM frequently. So if I have a research paper, if I need to know about a topic, a Gartner report, many things that come out, and I throw that all into Notebook LM because sometimes you don't have the time or you're not in front of your machine and you know you got a long drive. Instead of just listening to the traditional podcasts that are available, now you have a personalized podcast for your drive on a topic that you want to know more about and get all those pieces done. So Notebook LM has been great. Also, for the broader audience, if they haven't tried the Meta glasses, I encourage people to try those. Those are amazing with Llama's engine on the back end and its ability to help you kind of decipher things, translate things, exactly what you see. Obviously, fun to take pictures and videos and things like that, but it's just so seamless of how that natural language processing or interaction through your voice, interaction through your conversation with an engine.
Great, thank you for that. Awesome. Dixiana, go ahead.
So I would say I probably from a personal perspective, gravitate more towards Copilot right now for various use cases. Things as simple as helping me generate more robust job descriptions, to also when I'm putting together presentations, helping to enhance those presentations. Depending on the audience, you can put in, the content of your presentation and say, hey, make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more interactive. And it can push all that content out and just alleviate a lot of the time and the work and the effort you might put into trying to do that. So that's really on a personal basis. On a work basis, I think my biggest item that I'm currently really trying to push for is a knowledge-based solution system. There's a couple of solutions out there in the environment that are currently geared toward financial institutions. But because we are undergoing a digital transformation right now, that requires, I have a very small team doing a lot of effort when it comes to writing test cases, putting together procedures, policies. All these things take a lot of time and effort. So to have a knowledge base that I can just put that content in and then ask for those things after the fact, put together some test cases for me, put together a new policy related to this. As long as we have the barriers around that larger language learning model so that our content stays protected, I think that is going to create so much efficiency for my teams.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Beverly?
Well, I use it for that course creating and the writing aspect of it. Taking courses that I delivered on stage to people going from city to city, the content is still powerful and is impactful today. So being able to take it and upgrade it, throw it in again, like the chat part of GPT and getting it in that realm. But what really helped me a lot were some of the apps to where I could do that voiceover, right? So just by taking the content that I had now exactly how I wanted it, drop it in, push the button, pick the voice that I wanted, and it spit it out within less than 2 minutes. I could play back the sound and the enunciation, and everything was right there. That has saved me so much time taking and updating and bringing those courses from cassettes and CDs up to the digital space. Having this technology has just made it come together so much faster. And then now the platforms that are out there to get that marketed and get it out there, which are a lot is AI generated, for the posting and everything. So that's how I really incorporate that. And then being able to take now my classes, and the reason 6 years ago why I got in the virtual reality space was I wanted a place, I wanted a stage to bring what I did by going city to city. Now I can go globally wherever I want by being on stages in that space anytime, day or night, because these can be recorded, put in there, and at the click of the button, someone can be immersed in that space as if I were there. And to have a little bot beside that can actually interact. If it's in the middle of the night, if it's in the middle of the day, I can get a ding and I can pop in and say, oh, I see you, and you were here. Did you enjoy the show? Blah, 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 whatever the case might be. So how to interact with these, it has just been, for me, a total game changer, and it happened so fast and so unexpected. Just like, wow.
That's amazing. But can you talk more about the actual sort of software you're using? Like, if someone wanted to try that, I think I'd like to try it, frankly.
I have what's called the Genius Club, which gives you a lot of those apps that will do the voiceovers and the language and all of that. And it should be, and I can drop it in the chat here too, but I think it's going to be in the show notes and stuff. It's called the Genius Club. Okay,
that's great. That's really great. All right, so we just got through some of your favorite use cases. That's awesome. And I think we're gonna get there's some questions coming in, but I want to continue, asking for questions as well. I know some people have already asked about sort of the downside of the dangers, and so we should sort of talk through those. But let's actually first go through the panel and sort of get your sense for the some of the concerns that you have, right? I think we all have concerns, but I want to really pick the minds of this distinguished panel before I give my perspective. So Niraj, go ahead.
Yeah, the concerns are a lot, but I think one of the best ways to approach the concerns is what could be a way to alleviate those concerns. So when we think about in a corporate environment, how do you kind of alleviate those concerns? So what I mean by that is, but when you have a situation that says, can I let the AI engine just do what it needs to do without giving it scope? And Beverly described, like, if you feed it specifically what you want it to analyze for you and tell it not to add anything to it, the output's going to be very specific to what you're looking for. I don't know if any of you have tried this before. Sometimes I'll go to Claude and don't give it those parameters, and all of a sudden it's putting in things that it shouldn't put in, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So the concern is going to be we as humans are going to trust. We need to trust it, but we got to have some controls around that trust, and we give up those controls and saying, wait a minute, I just let it run amok and let it do a thing. And it's like, wait a minute, you can't have that. You need to know how to use this technology. What are the parameters around it? And so my fear is always we as humans become lazy, and then we kind of go really crazy with it, and it kind of goes a little bit astray.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that, Niraj. Dixiana?
So building on that, I read a statistic recently that generative AI hallucinates between 1% and 30% of the time. So that's probably one of the largest concerns that we have about implementing any solutions at a financial institution, and why I don't see in the near future us taking the decision-making aspect out of the hands of a human. So that's one of the major concerns. Data security is a secondary concern, we have to be able to, as you're feeding this information, obviously we might feed it proprietary, confidential, personal information that can't be shared with the larger audience. So protecting that information is of utmost concern. So that means building a barrier around our environment so that it doesn't feed the larger model. And then finally, I would say probably one of the other largest concerns is unknown future regulatory guidances that might come out, right? The regulators haven't quite caught up with the technology in terms of guidance. We have a little bit of guidance around fair lending and unfair deceptive acts and practices that financial institutions have to be concerned about. But if we implement large solutions today, will the regulation tomorrow have us force us to unwind all of that development? And so that's a big concern as well. And while you'll see a lot of financial institutions take baby steps toward a final solution.
Got it, for sure. And that's really important. I just want to double click on the protecting your data, right? There are tools with paid versions of the LLMs where you can have barriers, as you say. You can get the benefits of the language model, but also pull from your own data, right? And also, most importantly, protect people from giving their data, particularly confidential information, to the larger LLM. And that's those technologies are improving all the time. So that's a great thing to take advantage of. Beverly?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the two people who just shared, because again, the data that is in a lot of your AIs, like chat, I mean, it's collected data from all kinds of spaces out there, and we know there's a lot of chatter out there. The thing is it doesn't know how to distinguish between what is truth and what is not truth, right? And so the whole big thing in the author industry is, oh, write a book, just put it in there and ask all these questions, la, 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 la. But you still have to do due diligence as to read it, research it. Are these things factual that you're putting out there in print? Is it really how you would speak and talk? So, and again, now you're using other people's intellectual property, and now you start looking at the legalities of things. So where does that begin and where does that end? So when you can incorporate it and use the data, use that software for your intellectual property, it maintains itself in there, and it's not going to take it and absorb it and spread it out to the world. And not only does it protect you legally because it is yours, but it also is giving what you believe is your truth and your experience in it. So it's how you use it. It is only going to do with what you ask it to do. It does not have a brain to associate, is this right or is this wrong? Is this true? Is this false? That's where the human element has to still show up. And AI isn't going to take over the world because it's electrical. It has to have something to start it, and that's juice of some kind, right? Where our juice is our brain activity and the whole enchilada. So again, it's really understanding what the power is that we have in our hands and how to use it.
Great. Thank you, Beverly. I know one of the concerns I have is around deepfakes, right? I mean, the technology is getting so good and there will always be bad actors leveraging the technology. And hopefully, my hope is that the safeguards will be put in place that will protect us from that. But in the meantime, we're in for a bumpy ride for sure, at least over the next year or so, with again, bad actors. And bad actors could be, the bully down the road, or it could be someone trying to, ransom you, try to bribe you for money if they post some all adulterated image of you online. And in fact, we've had dozens and dozens of actually teen suicides because of this already. That's out of thousands and thousands of cases, but still the tragedy persists. And it is a real problem. But nowadays, with this technology, you can put someone's head on someone doing anything, essentially, and it looks pretty real. I mean, so if you think of, obviously, porn is an issue. That could be something where you can bribe someone or hold them hostage until they pay you. That is really scary. And as a father of teenage daughters, that really scares me. I have to say. But it can happen to anyone. In fact, voices can now be mimicked, right? So they can try to, and this is a problem for fintech, obviously, for banking, right? If they use that technology, if it can now be mimicked so well, that's a real concern because they can access your bank account, potentially. Again, the safeguards are coming online pretty quickly, but that is a terrific concern. And as you said, Beverly, they can, you could translate anything into a different language, right? So you don't even know. You could say something, you can translate into a different language, and it can go overseas, and that could bring a whole set of reputational issues, ransomware type of problems as well. So that is a really those are really big concerns of mine. Again, there is some technology that's coming online, including ways to watermark videos in real time. I'm working with a company in Idaho who's doing that. So hopefully those technologies, again, the big players should be doing it already, but it's just taking time. And again, it's a race, and that's the concern. So speaking on that concern, there was a question, and I think it's clearly very timely. They talk about DeepSeek, which is the new great technology out of China that's been able to be just as good as some technologies provided by OpenAI, Claude, and Anthropic, and Google. Now use it for the fraction of the cost, at like 1/1000th of the cost, something crazy like that. I might not be in the perfect fraction, but the point is that it is a competing model now. And someone asked if we should consider using that, or if there are, concerns, about privacy or any other concerns. So why don't we, if anyone wants to answer that, maybe Niraj will start with you. If you have any, what are your thoughts on DeepSeek and, as a potential model for public use?
Yeah, and I think the way to think about it is always what's a personal use case versus what's a corporate or an enterprise use case. From an enterprise point of view, they're already struggling with using the current models and sharing data, let alone using, a cheaper model. It's got nothing to do with price points. It's got everything to do with, wait a minute. And most corporations today have their own instances of OpenAI. So it's controlled and the IP is protected. And yes, DeepSeek kind of gives you that, but it's like, wait a minute, that's not, it's unclear how that data is going to get used and shared. So with that big question mark, I think from a corporate point of view, that's not going to be something that somebody's going to turn on tomorrow, let's say. It's going to take a long time as they kind of move forward. From a personal use, it's got to be always the same. What are you comfortable with and how much risk are you willing to take with that engine? You have many options. I mean, look, Llama's free. There's not minstrels out there. So there's so many different choices. So is this one the one for you, or are you going to try multiple? So I think all these different models that are available are only evolving. I think as a person or a corporation, to build that agility to flex in and out of these if something gets good enough and you want to switch to it. So as you think about your thought processes, don't go, come up with a way or a framework. At least in corporations, we come up with frameworks that says, I don't care which LLM I use in the future. I know they're going to evolve and get better, but I want that ability to swap out without losing my IP and what I've trained the LLM on how my company does work.
Got it. This is great. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts on that, folks? If not, we'll move on to the next question.
I'll add just a little bit here. The world of duality that we live in, you have both sides of the fence. I wrote a book on that. Which side of the fence are you on? Right? And again, it's using your personal intuition and stuff, utilizing that. And Jim, your concern about like what you said with teenage, daughters and things, all of that is there. What can be used for the greatest of greatness can also be to the opposite end of the spectrum. And so hopefully there's going to be some kind of harmony and balance in here to align with that for that protection. But again, it's being aware and really pay attention. If something doesn't look right, feel right, smell right, then it probably isn't. Better to be safe than sorry. And because the hacking industry we all know, has taken off into an uncontrollable amount. And personally, I don't know how people's brains work that way, but they do. So better off to avoid and instead of getting wrapped up into it. So that is a concern, and that needs to be addressed. And hopefully there'll be a way to counteract that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's, you bring up a good point there, Beverly, about education. We all have to be educated. And unfortunately, I think we're not doing that fast enough. Of course, it's changing every day, so it's really hard to do. But I know I'm part of an organization that's sort of trying to help build in responsible AI. And so you just can't get the information out there fast enough. And if it's not, delivered to your kids in a specific way, or people in a specific way, particularly kids, because they're just, on social media all the time, you really have to make sure they grasp it and are really suspect of things on that they're delivered, because it's so hard, as you know, Beverly, it's so hard now to distinguish between real and fake. And these models are just going to get even better. So a year from now, this conversation could be just avatars, frankly.
Well, in the sneaky way they go about it, sometimes you'll get a phone call and they'll ask you one question just to get you to say yes or no, so they can use your voice when they're promoting other things, because it comes across as your voice. So again, if you don't know who it is, don't offer anything. Don't answer. If they want you, they'll leave you a voice or a text message or something so that you can deal with that, right? So it's learning how to just take the cautionary measures. If you don't know who it is, let them spill it by leaving a message or sending you a text. And then you can block it or report it. Right?
Yeah, that's great advice. That is great. On the other hand, I have to say, every one of us everyone on the planet is on social media and have spoken into the universe,
yes,
and have videos and pictures into the universe, even babies. So it's a real problem. So thank you for those comments, and I'm sure we'll have more questions about safety going forward. But we have a question from a search engine optimization professional, and she's shifting into the search experience optimization business. She's trying to stay ahead of trends in AI so that she could have a better understanding of organic search for the user journey, for customers, for her clients, and so she's curious, or he or she is curious about are there recommended actions or routines that he or she can take to become the go-to person for insights around brand and website visibility on generative AI tools. So I'll just say there's so much free information out there. So if I were you, I'd go to the search engine SEO podcasts or forums or chats or Discord or anything where there are smart people talking about what's next and how AI will affect SEO, because it is affecting SEO for sure. And so it's important. I'm really glad you brought this question up. Everyone really needs to be asking the same question. How will AI affect my industry? How can I stay on the cutting edge? The clear answer is education, right? And that could be, informally listening to podcasts, getting newsletters, watching YouTube videos. All the information is out there. You have to be disciplined enough to stay on top of it. That could be a half hour a day. That could be a few hours a week. It could be more than that, depending on, the need to stay abreast of things changing and to position yourself to be able to use the tools of AI so that you will be the quote-unquote go-to person or the more valuable person in your organization. So with that, I'll leave it up to get some more perspectives. Niraj, any thoughts?
Yeah, look, search has always been one of those staples, but we know with agentic frameworks, with agents coming about, they're going to start slowly catering the search to very specific things. And it's going to be one layer abstracted from the person doing the search. So we know in the future that's already happening. I'll give you a business use case that we had deployed for the group. So when you do a loan, you're required to do what they call as news searches on a borrower, news searches on a property. In the old days, a human would go to Google, put in some keywords, look at all those links, look for context, relevance, summarize that, put that together. Now there's agents doing that already, and they know what they're looking for. So how will that help optimization or not? And the other thing that I always look at is there's two types of searches. There's what I call an immediate search. I need something now. That's very different than, hey, I'm just looking for information. And I found that more and more consumers, when they need something now, actually shifted away from traditional search to map-based search. It's always, hey, I'm here, I want to find a pizza shop, right? I'm at this location, and they're not going to the traditional outlets anymore. They're coming back to the simplest ways. And I'm going to indulge you in one more story because I brought up those meta glasses. And one of my greatest mentors, he's 80 plus, and I met with him with those meta glasses, and I sat with him at a Starbucks, and I said, hey, here, try these on, right? And he says, well, what do I do with them? I said, oh, great, just ask it, oh, where am I? So he says, hey, Meta, where am I? And it tells him, hey, you're in Huntington Valley. And then I said, well, ask the weather. And he said, what's the weather? Without saying in Huntington Valley, it gave him the context and it gave him the right weather. And I said, look, this is just basic search. Now you're accessing search in a different way through voice versus in the past you would have typed. And it's simpler, and it's giving you more contextual answers. And I said, we're going to go to the next level with these glasses. And I said, look at the menu at the Starbucks menu and say, read me the menu. And all of a sudden, it reads in the menu. So he goes, oh, this is great. I could go to restaurants now without having to take out my, reading glasses. This is going to kind of, if I have regular glasses, if I have these, this could work for me. And if we think about the future of all that evolution, it's going to be like, well, basic search was basic. Now how I access that search is totally changed. Now I'm going very contextual. When I look at that menu, it may know me personally, and it says, wait a minute, you have nut allergy, so I'm only going to read you the menu items that make sense. That agent will also ask me, do I want to order it? So I will order it with my Starbucks loyalty card, get it there, and you just kind of go pick up. And I was describing to my friend that evolution that's coming. So search, as you can see, is kind of getting a little bit diminished if you go forward, because these agents are going to be more contextual for you, and it's going to be very specific to you. And sometimes the search isn't just online anymore. So search is actually physical searches, what you're seeing on top of the online search.
Thank you for that. That was very informative. Any other comments before we move on? We're almost going to wrap up. So any more quick comments on this specifically?
Yeah, I'll give a quick comment on that. What we're looking to do is create these communities, because who do you trust, who do you don't trust? So by building communities of like-minded, people that are still in the honest realm of it, right? And layers of expertise is to be able to, start with memberships, and those memberships, and then the affiliating. Now we can do business with each other and share and advertise for each other in a so-called vetted community. Now, is it 100% safe? No, somebody can sneak in. I mean, they're going to get you, but it's at least going to help, buffer a lot of that by getting into these communities and these networking groups. And that's the nice thing about the virtual reality space, is it's there. And again, research that person. That information is out there, and do your due diligence ahead of time. But being able to come together in communities that already have been vetted with businesses that have been proven is a way to go. And I think more and more of that will also help to keep, the stuff out of the way that is causing an issue and an imbalance in humanity. And one other thing I want to say about virtual reality, a lot of people think you need to wear goggles. You don't. So just
Okay,
that little tip.
That's a really good heads up. So we're coming to the close of this great session, and I want us all just simply to leave folks with one tip, and then how to best get in touch with you, because I know there's dozens of more questions. We have a large group and a smart group, and we just don't have enough time. So again, I think each of us is really happy to answer any questions offline. So one tip I have is just have the discipline to keep using it from now on, at least a couple hours a week. Because they say if you use them for 10 hours, you'll have pretty good, I mean, that's what one expert says. But my thing is at least one or 2 hours a week spend using the LLMs. And also listen to at least one podcast that just focuses on AI. One that I've been on and which is really informative is called Everyday AI with Jordan Wilson. That would be my recommendation, but there's only about 1 million others. So vet them first. So that's, and then you can find me on LinkedIn is probably the best way. There's only one James Barrood. So I look forward to connecting with you online. Okay, Niraj, go ahead.
Yeah, you bring up some interesting things, but I always say, take your time and think about what you want to use this technology for. You could have the hype cycle, but look at that productivity. Where does it bring you value? And as you said, James, try it. Don't be afraid to try it. Think about what you want to use it for, and then not only try one engine, try another engine, try a third engine, see how the output works, see how those words make a difference and how you ask it to do something for you, how you ask it to use a persona, right? So sometimes you can say, hey, I want a CFO's perspective on this financial for me. And it'll kind of give you that perspective. So that's the number one way to think about this. Don't be afraid and think about that productivity aspect of it as you encourage to use it. I'm with you, James. Just ping me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. You'll find me, Niraj Patel, and it's pretty easy. And just mention this conference, and I'll gladly take time to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Beverly.
Yeah. Again, look for me on LinkedIn. I believe I'm the only Beverly Zeimet out there, but it also says Queen of the Metaverse, so that would be me. And I would love to answer any of your questions, help you out with anything if you need programs that you're looking for. But just keep an open mind. You know, you don't know what you don't know. But when you know it, and it is truth, what are you going to do with it? Because action is the only thing that makes the world go round. And this business, this AI technology, and all the technology that's coming up here today in the digital world is going to come and it's going to go and keep on going with or without you. The choice is, are you going to get on board early, or are you going to sit around and eat popcorn? So where do you want to take your business? What are you looking for in life? Just open your mind and try it. If you don't like it, don't do it again. Try something else. And if you like it, keep doing it, and it improves. You can also email me. Okay,
go ahead.
Let's
email
go.
Beverly Zeimet on LinkedIn. Dixiana, go ahead.
Same. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I would just leave with, please don't put your personal information into any of the prompts. That would be my one major tip to everyone.
Wonderful. Oh, that was a great way to. And how to reach you?
LinkedIn would be the best way as well.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, SheTek. Thank you, Chaya, for organizing this great conference. And again, we look forward to staying in touch and keeping you up to date on business and AI.